It was one of those nights that never really leave you. Cold, still, and heavy, like the air itself was waiting for something. I was driving home with my wife and daughter after attending a wedding out of town. It was almost midnight. The roads were empty, the headlights slicing through fog that hung low and unmoving. The world outside looked lifeless. Houses dark, shops shut, not a single person walking. My wife was asleep in the passenger seat. My daughter in the back was half awake, humming to herself, staring out the window. The radio was off. I preferred the quiet. For a long time, there was only the sound of the tires against the road, until suddenly my daughter screamed, "Dolls!" It startled me so bad my hands twitched on the steering wheel. I turned my head and followed her gaze. Out there, by the side of the road, in a dim yellow street light that barely worked, stood a man. A man with a wooden cart. And on that cart were dolls. Dozens of them. Big, small, some missing hair, others smiling too widely, all staring at the empty road like they were waiting. For a few seconds, I thought my eyes were playing tricks, but the cart was real. The man was real. He wore old, torn clothes. His hair was messy, long enough to shadow half his face. He stood still, almost motionless, his head lowered, as if he hadn't noticed our car passing by. My daughter's voice pulled me back. "Dad, stop. I want one." I didn't want to. There was something about that man that made me uneasy. Who in their right mind sells dolls on a deserted road at midnight? I told her gently, "Sweetheart, we'll buy one tomorrow. There's no shop here." But she started crying. I sighed. She was tired, cranky, and honestly, I didn't want her crying in the middle of the night. So I slowed down and stopped the car a few feet from the man. My wife stirred awake, mumbling, "What happened?" "Just a doll seller," I said quietly. "She wants one." She turned her head toward the window, blinked at the man's silhouette, and whispered, "At this hour?" Her tone carried the same unease I felt. Still, I rolled the window down. The cold air rushed in, damp and sharp. I cleared my throat. "How much for that one?" The man didn't move at first. Then, slowly, he looked up. His face was pale, eyes sunken, skin dry and grayish like he hadn't slept in weeks. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough, cracked, as though he hadn't spoken in a long time. 10 for the small ones, 20 for the big." I pointed to a doll with a red dress, its head tilted oddly to one side. "I'll take that one." Before he could reach for it, my daughter spoke again. "No, I want that one." She pointed to a doll sitting at the far corner of the cart, partially hidden under a cloth. The man's gaze followed her finger, and for a second I swear he froze. Then he looked back at me and said, almost reluctantly, "That one's old. Used. Just 5. I didn't think much. I gave him the money, and he handed over the doll without another word. Its porcelain face was cracked slightly near the eye, one of its glass pupils slightly off-center. But my daughter was smiling again, laughing as she hugged it tight. I looked at the man one last time. "Why are you selling toys here so late?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just stared at me. Not angry, not sad, just blank, as though he hadn't heard the question. Feeling uneasy, I thanked him quickly and rolled the window up. As I drove away, I checked the rearview mirror. He was still standing there, still staring. And I could have sworn, as we turned the corner, that he was smiling. The rest of the drive was silent again. My daughter played with the doll, brushing its tangled hair and making it talk. My wife stayed quiet. I didn't blame her. The night felt heavier than before. We reached home around 12:30. The house was cold and quiet, just like the road had been. I parked the car in the garage, told them to head inside while I locked up. By the time I came in, they were already in bed. The doll was beside my daughter, lying on the pillow with its eyes half open. I switched the light off, lay down, and tried to sleep. Sometime later, I don't know how long, I woke up. A sound had pulled me out of sleep. A faint, rhythmic sound. Clink, clink. It was coming from the kitchen. I rubbed my eyes. Maybe my wife was getting water. I turned over. She was right beside me, asleep. So was my daughter. The sound stopped. The house went quiet again. I told myself it was just the house settling, old pipes maybe. But then, another sound, a soft scrape, like something dragging lightly across the floor. I sat up, waited. Nothing. The silence pressed against my ears. Finally, I got up, turned on the light, and walked toward the kitchen. The air felt colder there. And on the floor was the doll, lying face down near the refrigerator. I stared at it, confused. I was sure it had been in the car. Had my daughter brought it in before sleeping? I picked it up. It felt strangely cold, heavier than before. I brushed the dust off its face and placed it inside the cupboard near the dining table. Everything looked fine, so I switched the light off and went back to bed. I must have just started drifting off when I heard something else. This time, a whistle. Soft, long, and close. I froze. It was coming from behind me. I turned slowly. The lamp on the side table was off, but through the faint moonlight slipping through the curtains, I saw it. The doll, sitting on the table, facing me, its head slightly tilted, its lips curved upward, a small, crooked smile. I felt my body go cold. I remembered clearly I had locked it in the cupboard. My hand trembled as I turned on the lamp. And the moment the light touched its face, that smile seemed wider. My wife stirred and asked what happened. I didn't want to scare her, so I said nothing. I grabbed the doll, walked out quietly, opened the main door, and threw it outside, into the garbage bin by the gate. Then I came back, locked the door, and lay down. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. Every creak, every whisper of wind felt alive. Morning came late. I must have dozed off for a bit because when I opened my eyes, sunlight was peeking through the curtains. I heard my wife in the kitchen and the faint laughter of my daughter from the living room. For a moment, I felt relieved. Daylight had a way of making nightmares feel stupid. I stretched, got out of bed, and walked out. My daughter was sitting on the floor, surrounded by her other toys. She looked up at me and smiled. "Good morning, Daddy." And then I saw it. Right there in her hands was the same doll, the same cracked face, the same off-center eye, and that smile. I froze. My throat went dry. I whispered, Where did you get that?" She looked at me, confused. "From the table, Daddy. Beside you." My wife turned from the kitchen, wiping her hands. "Oh, you found her doll? She must have brought it back in last night." My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my ears. I walked to the window and looked outside, at the garbage bin. The lid was closed, but the side of the bin had deep scratches on it, like something had tried to climb out. That entire day, I couldn't focus on anything. Every time I looked at that doll, I felt watched. Its glass eyes seemed to follow me. At one point, I saw my daughter playing tea party with it, and I could swear I heard two voices, her own and something smaller, thinner, whispering back. By evening, my nerves were shot. I decided enough was enough. While my wife was in the other room, I took the doll and placed it in the storeroom, high up, behind some old boxes. Then I locked the door. That night, I told myself it was over. But around 2 in the morning, I woke up again. Not from a sound, from a feeling that someone or something was in the room. I turned over slowly. My daughter was asleep, my wife too. But the window curtains were swaying slightly, though the window was closed. Then I noticed something at the edge of the bed. A shape, small, sitting still. The doll. This time her dress was torn slightly near the shoulder, and her smile had changed again. It was wider, too wide, almost splitting the porcelain. I backed away slowly, reached for the lamp, and just as I turned it on, I heard a whisper, a soft, childlike whisper. "Don't throw me away again." I don't remember screaming, but my wife woke up. She saw me standing by the window, pale and shaking. The doll was gone. We searched the room, the hall, the entire house. Nothing. For days, everything went back to normal, or at least we tried to believe it did. My daughter stopped asking about the doll. The nights felt quiet again. Until last week. We were packing some old clothes in the storeroom to donate. And when I opened one of the boxes near the top shelf, there she was. The same doll. Dusty, cracked, and smiling. Just like the night we found her. I didn't say a word. I just closed the box again, locked the storeroom and left. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and the lights are off, I still hear it. That faint whistle from somewhere very close.